Hello everyone to a proMX webinar. I am Katerina from proMX and I will be your moderator for the session. In case you have any questions or questions for the speaker, please drop them into the chat and Joe Griffin, our speaker for today, will cover them after the session. And now about our topic. Today we'll be talking about autonomous agents in sales, a topic that is coming in front of your eyes very often lately, I believe. And we will talk about how you can create these kind of agents, specifically with Power Platforms and Copilot technology. And for today, we have a great professional, Joe Griffin. Joe is a CEO of proMX UK, Microsoft MVP, and Microsoft Cloud Specialist. He possesses more than 50 certifications regarding the Dynamics CRM 365, Power BI, and Azure, and possesses an extensive knowledge in different industries, coming from energy to manufacturing, utility, and more. And yeah, without other ado, let's get started. And Joe, to you.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you. I might as well just finish there, I think, and say, yeah, job done for today. Okay, no, great, no worries. So let's get started then. So here's our agenda for today. So we're going to talk a little bit, first of all, by sort of setting the scene, seeing where we are at the moment when it comes to artificial intelligence and agents specifically. We'll talk a little bit about Copilot Studio because this is, I think, a very necessary and important component that we have here that's going to support us in this journey to build out these agents, and in particular in the future for these autonomous agents as well. And then we're going to jump into a demonstration. We're actually going to do a live demo of an actual autonomous agent. So fingers crossed and touch wood and all that stuff, that'll work just fine. And then we'll close out just by sort of giving you a bit of a sort of a context on why it's important to have a trusted advisor involved as part of your artificial intelligence journey. Some closing thoughts, call to action towards the end of it, and as mentioned as well, we'll also have hopefully a bit of time for questions. So please keep those coming in the chat. My colleagues or indeed myself will try and answer those as we get through. So yeah, here's me on the slide. So I think already Katerina's done a good job in terms of introducing me. But yeah, so as you can probably tell, I'm from the UK. I head up our UK-based subsidiary as the CEO. Generally get involved quite a bit in terms of from a strategic level, from a technology level. Very fortunate to be a Microsoft MVP and also a Microsoft certified trainer. So talking a lot these days about artificial intelligence, about Copilot Studio and Power Platform specifically. I do like to occasionally get my hands on. Fun fact about me, I've got a huge sweet tooth, so desserts, cheesecake, sticky toffee pudding, all that good stuff, I will happily consume those until I am full or until I die, whichever comes first. So let's talk about artificial intelligence. A lot happening at the moment, a lot of big news, a lot of really big innovations occurring. You know, this is all moving very, very sort of fast, not only from an OpenAI standpoint, but we're now starting to see more and more coming from other vendors as well. So the more recent sort of big announcements around things like DeepSeek has really sort of changed the game quite fundamentally once again. And we're starting to see, you know, we're very much now talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about, you know, from a positioning standpoint, from a Microsoft standpoint, you know, Microsoft is now an artificial intelligence-based company, and we're seeing this technology become more and more part of the fabric of our daily work. You know, a lot of people I know, for example, who use ChatGPT all the time, you know, to help them as part of either just some work things or maybe indeed, you know, to do things like maybe get some recipes and stuff like that for cooking. So, you know, it's here to stay, and it's very much going to be part of the conversation now in the future. So we really need to start thinking about how we can start to utilize this, how we can start to guide organizations towards all of this. And there's some really interesting stats that I wanted to share here around how artificial intelligence can really help organizations. You know, we're already starting to see, based on the research, you know, the return on investment that's been happened in terms of money being saved is quite sort of significant. We're not talking about, you know, this taking years to sort of evolve and to put in place, you know, potentially, you know, within the first year. Value is starting to be returned as part of these sort of solutions. And we're able to move very fast. We're able to move very fast because the technology becomes very sort of effortless to configure for the first time, particularly when we're looking at tools like Copilot Studio, when we're looking at things like the Power Platform. A lot of what we can do here can literally take just hours to build. So ultimately getting to a point where, a full implementation or end-to-end deployment can take, less than 6 months. So if you're used to, bigger IT-based sort of projects, projects for things like ERP systems that can take maybe several years to sort of mature to cycle, this is pretty impressive that we can, in only sort of, what it feels like sort of year 2 or year 3 of our AI journey, we're already seeing that this can be done very fast and very easy to address lots of different sort of use cases. But along the way, there's going to be a variety of factors that could potentially slow us down. Things are moving at very rapid pace, as we've seen. Literally every single week, there seems to be some new announcement or new thing that's occurring as part of this. Traditionally, if we're looking at software development, this has typically been a very challenging thing for a lot of organizations to align towards. We often need to have very specialist expertise in the organization to support us. That expertise is going to be not necessarily cost effective for a lot of organizations to have in place. AI is pretty good. The large language models that we have in place, it's been literally trained on the entire internet, so it is very, very knowledgeable. But how do we start to get our own specific contextual business data as part of this? And how do we do this in a way so that we're not essentially, benefiting or training these large language models so that our competitors or other organizations can benefit from the innovations that we sort of have? How do we, for example, figure out, okay, the best model to use? There's lots of different large language models. No two models are the same in this sort of regard. How do we satisfy things like privacy and security? Things like, for example, GDPR are very important. What's happening at the moment from the European Union from an AI legislation standpoint, again, is going to potentially fundamentally alter the landscape around all of this. So we have to strike that balance between, okay, how can we ensure that we're ticking the boxes here, whilst also ensuring we can innovate sufficiently so we're not left ahead of the sort of the curve. So you're really, as around all of this, we can hopefully start to get to a point where things could be slowed down if we're not too sort of careful. So these are the common challenges that we're sort of already starting to see with early AI adoption. But looking in terms of how things are shaping up now from a technology standpoint, specifically from a Microsoft standpoint, we should already be very familiar with Copilot as a solution, which has been around now for what feels like, I think, probably a year, 2 years now. But we're now very much talking about agents sitting on top of this, agents that can not only complement the existing Copilot-based solutions that we have in place, but which can also then act on their own, be independent of that, and can achieve a variety of different functions in the organization. And this is where we start to get to the point where we can really personalize and adapt the artificial intelligence to sort of suit our very specific business scenarios that we're being faced with. So towards the back end of last year, following on from Ignite, we started to talk more and more about agents. Agents being the primary thing that we should be able to go in as an organization and build out, using a mixture of different tools, whether they're sort of a low-code tools or whether they are sort of more on the sort of pro-code side, using things like .NET and Azure-based sort of services. And at the moment, we're talking about different sort of scenarios, different levels of complexity when it comes to agents. So agents that can do some very simple things in terms of being able to retrieve data, agents that can actually go and automate workflows, maybe go and create some records in the system, and moving very rapidly to the point where these agents are actually going to be able to start to operate on their own, not only be able to sort of dynamically determine each time what it needs to do, but also then work alongside other agents that it has access and availability to start to then really get to this sort of realm and get to this sort of area where things are running fully autonomous. At the moment, from a technology standpoint, we're starting to see this emerge in solutions like Copilot Studio. Some of this functionality is still in preview. It's worth just pointing out here, but we're seeing things move at a very sort of rapid pace. And today we can, to a certain extent, start to build out, our own autonomous agents, and we'll see sort of an example of that in the demonstration in a short while. So the benefit of the Copilot ecosystem, the benefit of aligning with a vendor like Microsoft, is that we have a lot of choice here. And certainly when we're looking at Microsoft compared to other vendors, this is by far the most mature and most end-to-end capable platform that we've got here that can support us, wherever we are in our artificial intelligence journey. Whether we just want to very quickly and easily use off-the-shelf Copilot-based solutions, whether that's Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot for sales or service or finance for very specific scenarios, whether we're looking to bring in some custom agents that maybe a software vendor has created. We can go on to, for example, Microsoft App Source and install those today. And again, these can complement our existing experiences. Whether we want to go a bit further and start to build out our own solutions, either using low-code capabilities from a Copilot Studio standpoint, or as I mentioned before, going down the more sort of pro-code route, with all the capabilities of things like Visual Studio, Azure AI Studio, Foundry, which is now referred to as, and so on and so forth. All of this here is at our disposal here. And really our focus for today is looking at this very specific tool here, Copilot Studio, and how we can actually start to use this to make this journey a lot easier, to deal with not only more simplistic use cases, but also as well for more complex ones, as a sort of really effective solution. Particularly as well if we're already very invested and tied into the Power Platform ecosystem as well. Here, Copilot Studio makes sort of perfect sense for us to sort of consider. So what is Copilot Studio then? So you may have heard of this previously referred to under a previous name, Power Virtual Agents. Effectively, the product has now evolved into what we refer to as Copilot Studio today. So we've got here a very sort of mature product, one that's been around for many different years. Microsoft's been very savvy in terms of being able to plan things in such a way so that we can very quickly pivot into this new sort of realm. All the way back in Hit Refresh, Satya Nadella was talking about artificial intelligence. So the reason why we're in this mode now where these tools are all feel like almost being instantly available to us is because of some very smart decision making along the sort of road. So with Copilot Studio, we can use this to build and not only build and extend the out-of-the-box Copilot experiences, but actually go and create our own agents that can exist within the realms of our own organization, or which can be maybe deployed out to a website, could be deployed out to maybe things like Facebook Messenger, could even be integrated alongside a contact center-based solution so that when I phone up a telephone number, I can effectively speak with the Copilot over the phone, or sorry, with the agent over the phone to answer my questions. So really quite capable in terms of what we can do here. And all of this, as I mentioned, very tightly drawn in alongside the Power Platform ecosystem. So whether we're looking to do more sort of semi-complex things, whether we're wanting to leverage things like the different Power Platform-based connectors, this can be done with this solution. We can start to do things like tap into the discrete knowledge that our organization has, regardless of where this has been stored in the organization, with the ability as well to also integrate alongside other Power Platform tools. Power Automate Cloud Flows in particular is something that we can very easily tap into. And most importantly, as part of all of this, whenever we're looking at any AI-based conversation, we can always ensure the human is kept in the loop. We can, with our agents, at any point escalate these out to a live agent when maybe, okay, it's a more complex scenario, more complex query, and where we very much need to have the human in the loop here. And this is a theme that we need to always keep in mind when it comes to building out these artificial intelligence-based solutions, making sure that we have those appropriate checkpoints here where a human can step in, where a human can review the content, can approve it, just to make sure that things are working as expected. But the benefits in terms of time saving, in terms of being able to automate a lot of things can still be realized while still also ensuring that we have those appropriate checks in place. So as a low-code tool, it's going to be very nice and easy. Literally anybody can actually go in today and create their own agent. I could go in and create an agent, link it up to some knowledge sources in SharePoint, and then that's going to be able to go away and ask questions. With a whole range of functionality in here, things like templates to allow us to get started very quickly. We can do a bit of sort of Copilot inception, use Copilot to actually go and create the agent for us just by using natural language prompts. We get a nice modern UX that's used to design and build this out, so no reliance or dependencies on additional tools. All of this can be done very easily from a web browser. But we also have the ability to be able to extend out using code if we need to as well. We can do things like, for example, export out our agent topics into YAML so we can then reuse it or maybe incorporate it as part of our source code solution. We can also integrate with things like Azure AI Foundry and Azure AI Search for more complex scenarios. So a lot of really nice capability that we've got included here as part of Copilot Studio. So when we're looking at the building blocks for building an agent, these are the key 4 things that we need to keep in mind and we need to ensure that we think about how we bring in our data, how we can start to automate things with actions, how we can build out our conversation paths, and ultimately, okay, what is the experience that's going to be used to surface this out and make this available to users. So I just want to spend a few moments just talking about each of these in a bit more detail so you can start to appreciate some of the really nice functionality that we have available here. So with knowledge sources, we can at any point look to hook up existing enterprise resources that we have available to us. And this can be data that's maybe available on, for example, our public website. It could be data that's maybe stored in Dataverse, as I mentioned, Azure AI Search, Azure SQL. There's a whole bunch of additional enterprise connectors that are slowly coming on stream at the moment. So in the future, we'll be able to use things like Fabric and other tools to be able to integrate alongside that. And using this, we can then start to make our agent a lot more intelligent and a lot more aware about our organization and what we do. So therefore, it can provide a lot more relevant answers in terms of questions that we give it, rather than having to fall back on any sort of pre-built knowledge that the agent has with the large language model. So today we can connect up to SharePoint and OneDrive. We have the ability to be able to upload individual files. So regardless of where your knowledge source is going to sit, it's going to be possible here to integrate it alongside the agent in some shape or format. We can also start to integrate with actions. And as I mentioned, this is where we can start to leverage the benefits of the Power Platform. In the Power Platform, we have got a wide array of different connectors, well over 1,400 pre-built connectors to a range of different services, both Microsoft-based and also third-party based, things like Workday, Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, and more. We can actually bring these connectors into the equation here now, so it can actually go and connect to these automatically and automate actions. So I can just basically just type in a question, okay, tell me which opportunities I've currently got assigned in Dynamics 365. The agent is able to go off and dynamically query the data source and return the data that I want in the format I've requested it, all using these connectors. We can as well also integrate alongside any custom connectors that we can build ourselves for maybe bespoke application systems or maybe legacy systems that we want to integrate with, as well as also the ability to leverage things like GPT prompts to be able to maybe summarize data or apply some very specific instructions to something before we then feed it back to the user. And also, as we mentioned already, the ability to then also integrate alongside Azure-based services, get agents talking to other agents, and use anything that's already been built out from an Azure bot framework standpoint. From a logic standpoint, we have full control over the conversation paths of our agent in terms of, okay, what needs to happen at particular steps of the journey. What actions do we need to execute? What questions do we need to answer? Do we need to bring in maybe some generative capability on here to be able to maybe go over some data sources and answer a question? Or maybe even indeed connect out to our contact center. So we have the ability to integrate with solutions like Dynamics 365 Contact Center and other customer engagement hubs from other providers. So at any point in the conversation flow, we can escalate out to a human at the right time, as well as also providing the agent with the full history of the chat there. So they've got the appropriate context there that they can go away and action accordingly. And then finally, we have our channels. So a lot of flexibility in terms of ultimately how we can publish and deploy out these agents. They can be maybe based solely within Microsoft Teams. We can maybe integrate them within maybe a custom website or mobile app that we've built. integrations into services like Telegram, Line, Facebook, direct line speech, as mentioned as well, all those various different customer engagement hubs available to us. So we can really start to make our agents a lot more public facing if we need them to, so that our customers can start to engage with them and use them in the way that we sort of want and intend. So altogether then, with Copilot Studio, we've got a nice unified solution on here that we can sort of use. It's worth just spending just a moment here talking about some of the differences from a licensing standpoint. Now, granted that this is quite a fast-moving area, so things can change. There are dedicated licensing guides available on the Microsoft website, which will give you the most accurate and up-to-date view over this. But generally speaking, if we're wanting to build our own custom agents that we want to maybe include as part of Microsoft 365 Copilot, or maybe to integrate alongside Teams, then if we've already got Microsoft 365 Copilot installed in our environment, then we've got coverage for those usage rights. We can go in and we can create agents that we can then integrate into Teams very nicely or very easily. For those scenarios where we maybe need to go and actually deploy our agent out into our custom website, and this is where we'll need to have a standalone license to cover those usage scenarios, as well as also potentially things like add-ons for messages, which are particularly important when we're looking at autonomous agents and all that sort of stuff there. So that will hopefully give you a sort of a broad indication, okay, what do we need here to sort of use and sort of consume this in terms of, okay, the different sort of experiences. But, potentially if you today, your organization is already using Microsoft 365 Copilot, then you can start to get started with Copilot Studio today to deal with those different internal based scenarios. Okay then. So let's jump into the demonstration and let's set the scene first of all. So I'd like to introduce you today to Cosgrove. Cosgrove is our autonomous sales agent designed to really help sellers in the organization deal with common issues that we're faced with. Ultimately to ensure that we as an organization, can do what we do best. Offer our services out, as well as also being able to prioritize our sort of our workloads or workloads of our sellers in an effective way, so that they can get more done. And we can ultimately keep our customers happy, as we are dealing with multiple different sort of inquiries that come in. So what I'd like to do today is demonstrate three broad scenarios that have been built out using Copilot Studio. We're not going to get too much into the technical details, just want to show you the actual scenarios in question. And it's really just to illustrate and to show you what is possible today, and to be completely upfront and transparent with you, what is actually possible in a short amount of time. What we're going to be demoing and seeing today is taking me literally probably hours to be able to put together. If this was to become, with a bit more polish and a bit more time, then we potentially could be creating something that's really quite compelling. So start off with our first scenario, where maybe we want to automate the process of being able to receive new inquiries, being able to then loop in the appropriate seller and then take the appropriate actions to go and create, for example, a lead in our CRM system. We'll then see how the autonomous agent can actually act to give us information, timely information on a day-to-day basis in terms of what we need to focus on. And then finally, we'll see how we can use an autonomous agent to actually go generate for us perhaps a statement of works for a customer, loop in the appropriate internal experts so they can review that and make sure it's happy, then actually handle the entire process of sending that out to the end customer. And all of this today is possible to do using the Copilot Studio technology. And assuming that I've prayed to the demo gods and sacrificed accordingly, in the demonstration now, we should hopefully be able to see how this all comes together. So we're going to start off first of all with an email. So on this screen here, you're going to see there's going to be an email which I'm going to send to a specific mailbox over here. So we're going to assume in this scenario, okay, I may be a customer. I've come across a website for a company. I'm interested in maybe engaging with this company to assist us with maybe a migration of our CRM system. So in my initial inquiry email, I've given some details about who we are and what we're looking to sort of do. I can then go off and then send this email to this mailbox. What we're then able to do behind the scenes is then have it so the autonomous agent is constantly or consistently listening to that particular mailbox and when the time is right, it's then able to then go and actually give me a notification to say, okay, you need to go and check this inquiry. It's just come in. It's definitely something that's going to be of interest to us. So at this point here, we move across into Microsoft Teams. Teams is going to be the place where we want to hopefully do a lot of this sort of stuff. And provided that everything works correctly and I've prayed accordingly, what we can see down here is I've got my Cosgrove agent actually installed into Microsoft Teams down here. You can see some examples of some tests that I was doing earlier today. So Cosgrove is now effectively just an agent. It sits within Teams. I can chat with Cosgrove at any particular sort of point, and basically have a conversation, a dialogue. We've been able to configure the agent in such a way so that it can very quickly and easily sort of adopt the persona that we want. So in this case, mirror the behavior of Ken Cosgrove from the well-known TV series Mad Men. And now we can see that I've just received notification through. So we've got basically a summary down here. Basically, it's been able to read the contents of the email, summarize that from all of that, and then give me that in the moment so I can then go and check that accordingly. So sometimes having these Teams-based notifications can be a lot faster and easier rather than having to sort of go, and have to constantly scan a mailbox and all that sort of stuff. So now that Cosgrove has given me some information about that, I can actually get Cosgrove to take some additional action for me. So I can maybe just say, here, okay, that's great. Would you please be able to create this as a lead in the system? And again, Cosgrove is able to sort of, behind the scenes, detect the intent of what I want here, and Cosgrove should then ask, okay, yes, that's no problem. I'm going to go and create that for you in the system. In fact, that's now been done over there. I can then ask Cosgrove to give me the URL for that new lead on there that's been created in the system. And just to prove that there's no smoke and mirrors over here, we should be able to, if we go over to here, here's the new lead that's been created. If we go into maybe the audit history, if it's enabled, we should be able to see when the record was created. In fact, I can maybe do this little plugin over here, which will sort of show that. So if I do created on, we should be able to see that, yep, it was created on 10:58, so literally just a moment ago. So Cosgrove is very intelligent in terms of being able to not only detect when certain events occur, it's able to then process the required business logic that I want, and then also deal with follow-up requests that I may have in terms of, okay, go and do this, go and create this in the system, draft something for me, and so on and so forth. What's also really great about Cosgrove as well is that we can also have these triggers based on maybe some specific sort of schedule that we have in the system. So as an example, maybe at the start of each day, I want to have my agent assist me with what I need to focus on today. So as part of that, what I can do is set up a scheduled trigger, which is then going to run in the background every single day. For the purpose of this demo, I've just basically triggered this behind the scenes, but in a second we should see that Cosgrove is going to send me another message, and that's going to basically outline into there what I need to focus on from a day-to-day basis. So here Cosgrove is able to go off and query in the system. Using GPT prompts behind the scenes, I'm able to apply some logic in terms of, how to process the data. So in this case, Cosgrove is just going to be returning the top 5 leads in the system that potentially need action. And we also then instruct the AI to then sort of look at a variety of different criteria when doing that determination, based on whether a decision maker has been identified, whether the revenue is over a certain amount. We can also as well get Cosgrove to advise, what is going to be the most appropriate next step as part of this. And at any point, if I'm interested, I can just click onto any of these view leads down here, and then it's going to then take me through into the system where I can inspect in a bit more detail. And again, the process here for generating this URL is very easy. I just instruct the agent in terms of, give it an example of the type of URL that I need, and it's then able to go through and do this for every single record over here. And it's literally probably just took a few minutes to put together. So really very powerful in terms of what we can do here. So those are the first 2 scenarios covered off then. So let's move ahead to the third one. So in this scenario then, we're going to be seeing how we can basically get an agent to help us with a common workflow. Certainly a common workflow in our organization. Very typically, we need to produce statement of works. These statement of works need to be maybe checked by a few people internally to ensure these all look fine. And then we need to then send this out to the end customer. So again, using Cosgrove, this process becomes a lot more easy. I can just ask it a question. So for example, could you please generate me a statement of works for the new prospect, Joe Griffin, who just came in a few moments ago. Cosgrove is able to determine the intent of what I want from there. Behind the scenes, it's again able to figure out, based on the data that's fed in, what we need to put together here in terms of a statement of works. So in this case, we want a statement of works for a CRM implementation or a migration project. And in a few seconds, we can see down there that Cosgrove has produced for me an entire summarized statement of works. What I've also been able to do here is actually then point Cosgrove to some internal documents that basically dictate, okay, here is how we structure our statement of works as an organization. So Cosgrove is then able to use that knowledge to be able to frame the statement of works in the correct sort of way. I then get the option then just to review that, make sure it's all fine. If I'm happy with that, I can click on looks good down there. At this point, we can then initiate a workflow behind the scenes that then goes and routes this to another subject matter expert in our organization to basically get them to check and verify and make sure it's all sort of fine. So in this case, it's going to send this out to my colleague, John, for an initial review and approval before it then comes back to us so we can then confirm that it looks okay. We want to, at this point, initiate an automated workflow. We want to route the statement of works to our colleague, John. John can then review. He can then either approve or reject that. And once that happens, we can then send it out to the customer automatically. Again, at this point as well, making sure that we involve ourselves again, the human in the loop, to sort of approve that. So if I now jump across to another browser tab over here, I'll just need to log in again to my other profile. So I'm basically acting here now as John Doe, very sort of appropriately sort of named perhaps. And if I log into Teams now, I should see that one of two things has happened. I can see that Cosgrove has sent me a message. Cosgrove has sent me a message here saying that I've got a new statement of works that Joe's prepared and that I've been sent an approval. This approval is using what we would refer to as the modern flow approvals, which is really nicely integrated inside things like Microsoft Teams and Outlook. So I can see at the top up here, I've got a notification here for the approval. As part of this, I'm able to include the full entire statement of works. I can as well include a link to the actual lead from the system as well. So if I need to go in as the SME, inspect things further, I can do that very easily. And if I'm assuming that I'm all happy with this, I can then approve this. And it's then going to initiate the next steps in the automated workflow. So now that's all approved. If I return back to here, we can see that Cosgrove has again now sent me another message. Cosgrove is able to then look at the entire statement of works and from there draft a appropriately sort of email that can then be automatically sent out to the customer. And here we can use adaptive cards capabilities, again, another feature that we've got in the platform to be able to present and format this. If we wanted to, we could as well make this look a lot fancier. We can maybe add some images, some rich media content. But in this case, I'm just going to say at this point, okay, looks all good. It's then going to, again, using these different Power Platform connectors behind the scenes, go and actually send out this reply to the customer. So in this case, sending out an email to me. And again, just to prove that there's no smoke and mirrors of any of this, if we now go out into Outlook over here, we can see that I've literally just received an email through with that entire draft there. Granted, there are some formatting issues maybe here that we need to sort of resolve and stuff like that, but we can see it's been able to not only send out the email, send it out from the mailbox that we originally emailed out into, and we now have some details here that can then help us as part of that. If we wanted to, we could maybe go a step further, maybe attach some form of documentation, maybe also request for some availability for a meeting. And again, all of these steps could then be automated from there. So those are the three scenarios. They are quite sort of simple scenarios. As I mentioned, these are scenarios that have been sort of built out, literally in hours. And as you can see, the demo went quite smooth, apart from maybe just a slight glitch with my laptop with the internet connection, but otherwise all work quite swimmingly. So it really gives you a good impression in terms of what the technology can do with minimal time investment, and also perhaps maybe an appreciation, okay, if you were to focus, a lot more time in terms of building things out, you could start to achieve some very, very critical and important things. So I'll just stop here for a second. I'll just check to see if there's any questions at all in the chat. Doesn't look as if there are. So in which case then we can move on. So I talked about before the importance of having a trusted advisor, and I think this applies for any IT project technology-based solution. We want to ensure that we've got somebody in the corner that can really help us, as we're navigating through this technology. Ideally somebody that can help to enable us better when we're using this technology, that can help us maybe with some of the more complex tasks that we may be faced with the idea being that hopefully we can then do a mixture of stuff ourselves quite easily with this low-code technology, but then work with a trusted advisor for the more complex tasks. Ideally align with somebody who can be that good conduit. When we're working with, vendor technologies like Microsoft, it's good to have somebody there who can act as a good go-between. Somebody who can help you with the regular health checks that may be needed, just make sure that things are working just fine, and really just ensure that you can get the help that you need, you can maximize your investments that you make in this technology. And as we've talked about already, such a constantly evolving platform, it's going to be impossible for a lot of organizations to keep on top of this. So it's really vital that you've got somebody there who can sort of explain around all of that and give you that helping hand, as and when you need it. So for this reason, we think that maybe proMX, as an organization, could be a very good fit for you in this sort of journey. Traditionally, our expertise is more around the project operations and general business application side of things, covering Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. But maybe I'd like to humbly submit to you today that we could potentially be also a very good partner when it comes to artificial intelligence as well. We're already doing a lot of work with and clients at the moment, both in terms of training them around this technology, as well as also working around different sort of proof of concepts. And we're very well positioned to be able to support you in your journey around all of this. This is primarily because of a lot of the different accolades that we can see on the slide over here. We've been a long-standing member of the ISV Connect program. We are a Microsoft Inner Circle partner. This is quite a big, important accolade. Basically, you have to be one of the top 3% partners globally to get this accolade. So it really does, demonstrate and recognize the work that we've done in that area. Previously accolades for Partner of the Year. We've got all of the latest, what we would term solution partner designations as well. And a very good relationship with our colleagues at Microsoft, where we try and help and support them as much as possible and ensure we can deliver successful outcomes when it comes to the projects that we work with. From a client perspective, we've also got a pretty impressive list, as we can see over here. So primarily, these are probably the sweet spots in terms of the different industries that we cover off here. With clients here based across in Germany, as far afield as maybe India, US, and so on and so forth. A lot of really success stories around all of that in terms of, not only Dynamics and Power Platform related projects, but also as well some early work around artificial intelligence, which we're helping these customers and supporting them with. We're very fortunate to receive some pretty good testimonials from our colleagues at Microsoft, as well as also a couple of different case studies that we've done as well. I'd certainly encourage you to take a look at the Deutsche Bahn one on the Microsoft website. The solution we built out there is pretty interesting in terms of not only showcasing a good user scenario for Dynamics 365, but also really illustrating the benefits of using the entire end-to-end platform in a really nice and effective way. So definitely would recommend that you check that out as well. So specifically then, in terms of how we can potentially help your organization, there's a few different sort of ways. We are what we would term to be a direct CSP, cloud solutions provider, or CSP provider, which means that we can offer the full suite of licensing, and effectively we can then manage all aspects of that for you, including the support arrangements as well, with the ability to then tap into elevated support or escalated support queues from a Microsoft standpoint. From an expertise standpoint, we've got colleagues based across the globe, deeply experienced in terms of working with the business applications platform, working with the Power Platform and Copilot Studio in particular, as well as also some really good expertise on the pro code side. So when it comes to those more complex requirements where, as I mentioned, we need to start to bring in .NET or Azure-based capabilities, we can do that very nicely and very easily. Training is a big area that I'm involved in quite a bit at the moment. We're very fortunate to have a couple of what we would term Microsoft certified trainers on staff. So trainers who are adequately experienced to be able to guide and users, either sort of train end users directly, or typically we do a lot of train the trainer type sort of approaches for our bigger customers. So again, the MCT designation in particular affords several benefits there, when we're looking at those training sort of engagements. As mentioned, a very close relationship with the team in Microsoft. We've got several MVPs, most valuable professionals, including myself, on the staff who are able to tap into, the key people within Microsoft for when we need to give insights and knowledge. And also as well, very often we've got colleagues who are also speaking and dealing with the product team directly in Redmond. I myself are going to be over there next month, in fact, so looking forward to that. So we're able to sort of, be able to tap into that and ultimately guide you around, okay, what we would recommend from a best practice standpoint, as well as also what we would recommend strategically in the long term for your organization. And ultimately as well, we can also support you around what we would traditionally term from a Power Platform standpoint, setting up a center of excellence. Making sure that you've got the foundations in place that's going to allow you to use this technology in the correct way. Foundations are often the most important part of any solution, IT solution that we put in place. And just like a building, if the foundations are rotten from the start, then it's probably going to be the case that the building will collapse. So what we can do here is hopefully ensure that you've got that really great solid foundation. We can guide you on what you need to do to ensure that you're ultimately successful when you're implementing and using this technology. So we're very much open and happy to help you with any of this. If any of what we've shown or talked about today has piqued a particular interest, then very happy to talk about that, after today, if you would like. So I was always told you should end every presentation with a call to action. So here are my own sets of call to actions over here. What I would say is start thinking about how you can use this new technology, how you can start to bring generative AI into the equation, how you can start to use it to address any particular scenarios that you're facing at the moment, any pressure points, any challenges, and start to sort of think very clearly about all of that and get that sort of written down, because it's going to allow you to then start to think about how Gen AI can fit into the equation around all of this. Next, what you can do at any particular point is that you can sign up for a Power Platform developer plan. This then allows anybody to then go and actually start to build out these solutions themselves. So if you wanted to trial Studio, you can do that very nicely and very easily. And hopefully as part of that, you'll just see how straightforward it is to build out a similar solution to what we've demonstrated here today. Next, make sure you align yourself towards a partner or a trusted advisor. It could be anyone. I'm not really too precious on that particular point. Obviously, it'd be great if you were to come to us as part of that, but generally speaking, you need to find an organization, a trusted advisor who you're happy to work with, who has got your side in terms of being able to support you, is knowledgeable, and ultimately has that good fit from a culture standpoint. So try not to go completely alone in this journey. Get some support, get a helping hand. It's going to allow you to move a lot faster. And finally, as I mentioned, if anything here today has piqued your interest, I'm happy for anybody at any point to sort of reach out to me after the day. If you want to just have just a 30-minute chat on anything that we've spoken about today, no obligation, nothing as part of that, then more than happy to do that. My email address is here on the slide. We'll be very happy to hear from you and to have that conversation. So I'm going to pause here now again and just see if there are any questions in the chat which we want to get sort of answered. No, I can't see any questions at all. We'll return to this in a few moments in case maybe a question comes to mind or something like that. But before we do, just a few things to make you aware of. that are sort of happening that you may also be interested in. So we're very fortunate here at proMX. We do webinars quite frequently on a whole range of different sort of topics. So case in point, my colleague Kirfi is going to be doing a webinar a little bit later on today, actually, it seems, all about how we can use Power Automate and specifically build out AI-driven workflows. So this will complement a lot of what we've seen here today, maybe more from a technical standpoint. Power Automate was used quite extensively as part of some of the demos that we saw here as part of that. So I'm sure this session will be of keen interest. So that's happening later on today at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Central European time. So do check that out if you do have the time. This next one, it's got a bit more notice, and this one I'm also very particularly excited about because in April we're going to be organizing what I think is actually the world's first Project Operations Summit taking place at Microsoft Munich. And this is a really big and important event for us. Not only are we going to have all of our experts there, and also me as well, we're also going to be having a lot of really great people from Microsoft coming directly to Munich, key leadership people here talking about project operations, talking about what's happening with the platform, not only Dynamics 365, but also on some of the topics that we've also spoken about today, things like Copilot and agents and so on and so forth. So we have a really sort of jam-packed agenda. So regardless of where your interest lies, if it's more on the business side, on day one, we can see here we've got some very exciting sessions, some keynote sessions from the likes of Georg Glanschnick, Rupert from the product team, as well as also some of our other experts talking around some of the different sort of business considerations and scenarios, things to think about as part of that. And then for those of you who've got more of a technical itch to scratch on the second day, again, we're going to have Samir Verma, who's head of products for Dynamics 365 AI ERP, doing a keynote. And you'll also be able to see me in person if that is of interest to you. So doing a few sessions here with some of my colleagues, again, talking around some of the same stuff that we've seen today, as well as also things like the release wave 1. And also you can ask me any question that you want. Whether I'll be able to give you an answer may be another factor, but you can certainly more than happily ask me any questions that you like. So if you wanted to attend this event, then please do send us an email, marketing@proMX.net. We're very happy to welcome you to Munich. It's going to be a really exciting 2 days. I'm certainly looking forward to it, not only to seeing everyone at the Microsoft office as well, but Munich is a fantastic place to always visit, all the nice beer halls and the nice cultural stuff. So I'm sure it'll be a very nice 2 days, both from a business and also perhaps maybe also from a pleasure standpoint as well, if you plan accordingly. Okay then, so that is everything that I wanted to say. So again, we've got just around about sort of 10 minutes remaining. So if we jump back to here, I'll just see if we have got any more questions at all in the chat. Doesn't look like we've got questions. I've stunned everyone to silence, I think, or I hope at least.
A lot of information, a lot of interesting insights. I want to get the same help in my team. Where can I get started, Joe?
You can just get started yourself. As I say, just go in, set up a developer environment and just start to build out these agents yourself. It's really nicely designed to make it easy for anybody to come in and do this, and if we can start to reduce those barriers, make it easier for subject matter experts to build these solutions themselves, then hopefully we can address a lot more, issues that organizations face on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, then I will be reaching to you.
Okay. I'll get myself prepared and ready then.
All right. Thank you so much once more, Joe, for being here today with us and sharing all this knowledge and insights. And as Joe mentioned, we have a lot of interesting topics coming up. A small correction about the webinar. It is exactly in a month. I believe that the mistake was because of the date.
Well, with the magic of PowerPoint, what we could do now very quickly, and you can cut it afterwards, is I can just change it. So I can just do like this. Oh no, I can't. It's an image. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sure it'll be fixed on the recording. I'm sure.
No worries. Yeah. So On March, there is the webinar on AI flows, also on Power Automate for finance and marketing, if you're interested. And in April, we have the great Project Operations Summit, and you have all the links in the chat, so please take a look at that. We also have all the information about that on our LinkedIn page. And stay tuned for more events. In case you have any additional questions, please reach out to us directly to Joe or to marketing team. And we are looking forward to seeing you in the future. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.